The Kinus Mechanches Chabad is brought to you by the Menachem Education Foundation. We would like to thank the Kinus staff for making this event possible. Rabbi Zalman Schneier, Mrs. Chana Rose, Mrs. Eti Teleshevsky, Mrs. Sarah Pinson, Mrs. Bela Rutman, Mrs. Mushki Lipsker, Mrs. Mushka Cohen, Mrs. Allison Feldman from FFH Events for producing the Kinus, Rabbi Chaim Zippel, the banquet producer, Ben Sion Turk and the Turk Caterers team, Dovi Abraham and the Zikron Digital team, Shammai Chain and the 321 Motion team, Shmuley Ganevish, Gem Media, Harav Yosef Brian. Special thanks to Rabbi Meir Hecht. Vad Hakinas, Mrs. Chana Brud, Mrs. Batsheva Darren, Mrs. Shana Tachtel, and special thanks to the Kinus Committee, Shandy Shapiro, Mushki Kasevsky, Chani Pinson, Chani Posner, Rachi Sandhaus, Devori Blasberg, Chani Nemes, Devora Gonsberg, Sarah Weiss, Rivka Arnold, Danielle Forer, Bela Blumstein, Kesem Mia Chatzroni, Yehudis Bialystok, Chaya Sarah Kaufman, Hindi Feldman, Chani Goldschmidt, Chaya Katz, Aviana Dahan, Chaya Kramer, Chani Naparstek, Chaya Wilhelm, Rifki Chesney, Sheva Reitblatt, Nechama Stock. The Menachem Education Foundation and the Kinus Mechanches Chabad gratefully acknowledge the generous support of the following sponsors: the Crane Malling Foundation and Dr. Michael Malling from Chicago, Illinois, the Paul and Pearl Kaslau Foundation, Brienza's Academic Advantage, Shalom and Rachel Meyer from Toronto, Canada, Galina Datskovsky from Yerushalayim, Eretz Yisrael, Daniel and Rivka Fishman from Houston, Texas, Levi and Chaya Eckhaus from Crown Heights, New York, Zalmi Klein from Los Angeles, California, Rabbi Eliezer Kornhauser from Melbourne, Australia, the Frankel family from Sao Paulo, Brazil, Chanoich Perez from Bal Harbor, Florida, Taurus Auctions.
I had my first Yechidus with the Rebbe when I was 17 years old, so I had in front of me two options: to continue and do shliches with my sister in Holland, or to come here and learn the language and eventually teach here in America. I brought these two options to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe asked me, "Does your uncle have a position available for you?" The Rebbe was referring to my uncle, Vetter Sholem Mendel Kalmanson, who is the founder of the school Shnei Or in Aubervilliers. I was so surprised by the question, and sure enough, when I went out of the Yechidus, I found out that there was a place for me, and this is where I taught for 2 years. I knew that why my mission was Chinuch. A Chassid knows that his first Yechidus is the path for his life, and I know that that was for me. When registration opened this year for Kinus HaMechanches, I was not sure if I was going to attend, and I was going to write to the Rebbe to ask the Rebbe's broche and advice. So I opened Igros Kodesh, and it was a letter addressed to the Neshei Chabad Convention. I did not exactly feel that was an answer for me, and I shared the letter with my mashpia. My mashpia asked me, which year is this convention of Mechanches? Because the letter was addressed to Neshei Chabad, the 10th year. I told her I think that the Kinus HaMechanches is much more than 10 years. And imagine my excitement when, after hanging up the phone with my mashpia, I find out that the Kinus HaMechanches is number 10. At this moment, I knew the Rebbe was talking to me and to all of us gathered here. I would like to share with you part of that powerful letter. Bracha v'sholem. Die Hajorike Convention was bezeichnet als Zeitabschnitt von 10 Jahren Tätigkeit, hat mehr wie die gewöhnliche Bedeutung. Sie darf ausdrücken als speziellen Wendpunkt in einer Tätigkeit, laut der speziellen Bedeutung und Anweisung von der Zahl 10. The Rebbe goes on in the letter to explain how special the number 10 is. This year's annual convention marks 10 years of activity. But this is more than just another year. It's a turning point. The number 10 has a special meaning in Torah. It is the last of the single digits and the beginning of the 10th. It marks a new and higher level, not just in quantity, but in quality. From 10 and on, a new order begins, one that is not only greater in number, but deeper in meaning. This helps explain why the number 10 is so significant, not only in Torah, but in Jewish life as well. Certain holy parts of davening, like Kaddish, Kedusha, and Boru, can only be said when 10 Yidden are gathered together. I would like now to extend the bracha of the Rebbe to each one of us here that came together to strengthen each other in this holy mission of Chinuch al Taharas HaKodesh. It's my biggest nachas, Baruch Hashem, that my 3 daughters are here, continuing in this beautiful shlichus of Chinuch. I would like to invite my 3 daughters, Chayesima Friedman, Shenemushke Einstein, and Hindi Feldman, to come and say the Tehillim with all of us.
Please rise for the Rebbe's Kapitel. Shir Hamalais LeDavid Lule Adonai Shehaya Lanu Yaimer Na Yisrael. Lule Adonai Shehaya Lanu Bekum Aleinu Adam. Azai Chayim Belaunu Becharais Apam Banu. Azai Hamayim Shetafunu Nachla Avar Al Nafshenu. Azai Avar Al Nafshenu Hamayim Hazedainim. Baruch Adonai Shalai Nasananu Teref L'Shinehem. Nafshenu Ketipar Nimata Mepach Yaishim Hapach Nishbar Va'anachnu Nimlatnu. Ezreinu B'Shem Adonai Aisei Shemayim Va'aretz.
Shir Hamalais Habaitchim Badeinai Kahartziain La Yimait La'ailam Yeshev. Yerushalayim Harim Savivla Vadeinai Saviv La'amai Me'ata Ve'ad Ailam. Kila Yanuach Shevet Haresha Al Gairal Hatzadikim Leman La Yishlechu Hatzadikim Ba'avlasa Yedehem. Heitiva Dainai Lataivim Vilisharim Bilibaisam. Va'amatim akalkalaisam yailichem Adonai as payale ha'aven shalom al Yisrael.
And now for Kapitel Chaf, and if you can please all have in mind Hinda Malka Bas Yacha Rezel and all who are in need of a refuah shalema, and for the safety and security of our brothers and sisters in Eretz Yisrael, and for the quick and safe return of all the hostages. And we should all return to Eretz Yisrael, our home, with Mashiach now. Lam Natseach Mizmar LeDavid, Yancha Adonai B'Yayim Tzara Yisagevcha Shem Elehei Yaakov, Yishlach Ezracha Mikaidesh Umitziayin Yisadeka, Yizkar Kol Mechaisecha V'Ailascha Yidash Nesela, Yiten Lecha Chilvavecha V'Chal Atzascha Yimali, Niranana Bishuasecha Uv'Shem Eloheinu Nidgal, Yamale Adonai Kol Mishalesecha. Ata Yadati Ki Haishia Adonai Meshichai Ya'aneu Mishmei Kachai B'Gevurai Seisha Yaminai. Ela varecha ve'ela vasusim va'anachnu v'shem Adonai Eloheinu nazkir. Hema karu v'nafalu va'anachnu kamnu v'nisaydad. Adonai haishia hamelech ya'anenu v'yayim karenu. Thank you.
Als hat Spur viel Ton mit Chinuch und befragt noch mit Chinuch von Jugend, was jeder von sie sich bekorret, aufbauen a Beis, a Family lernen und der Spur sein auf a jungen Menschen, wird noch gleich nicht palpig kammer, vergrößert mehrere Mal, durch wie man etwas bedugma, als kommt zu in einer frischen Beim. Ich soll demol beschaut, der Beim wächst zu für den zugekommenen Prat, als Chanechle nach an der Nahr Alpi, Darki, wenn noch gewähnt jung, hat ein Spiel gewähnt noch ein bisschen, ist Gamki Jaskin, als wird älter und buit auf a Familie mit Abayis, i das Niker, und Niker in a Sache größere Moses, was sich früher ausgewiesen, in allein und in der ganzen Huis und in der Kinder von seinen Kindern. Und wie sie wollen dann noch mechanisch sein, Bnei Bonim und Bnei Bonim, wurde von verstandig, als jede Anstrengung, was man darf machen, beschaß sich wegen Chinuch, tormen sich damit nicht rechnen mit den Anstrengungen, wollen die Anstrengungen, das von dem Mechanisch, die Tehillim davon kommt heraus, von dem Mechunach, von dem, wenn man erzieht und lernt, und durch ihn kommt das zu seinen Bnei Bayis und zu dem ganzen Arum, und zu der noch Peres und Peres, Deres, Lachre, Deres, über mehr Nechschav, was für Achschivus, hat das, was der Mechanisch strengt sich schon, als Jochid, beschaut die Tehillim davon kommt Reis für mehrere und es kommt Reis nicht nur bis Manne. In sein Zeit, was Mechanisch, das wird ab Jula Nimschaches, das wird Nimschach zu Bonim und Bnei Bonim.
Hi, everybody. Welcome. I wasn't so sure if I would be able to make it today, Baruch Hashem, and yesterday. Closer? Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome. I firstly just want to really, truly, from the bottom of my heart, say thank you to all of the coordinators and for everyone that was involved in making this Kinnos possible. Baruch Hashem, I was gifted to give birth a couple weeks ago, and I wasn't sure if I was going to make it. And I really davened to Hashem that I would be able to, because every single year when I come to the Kinnos, it really drives me and helps me through the year and really gives me that boost when going into a new year. So really, thank you, Hashem, and thank you to all of the coordinators. This has been so beautiful. I'm going to share a beautiful encounter that my sister shared with me recently. There was a man named Michal Goldhirsch in the 1980s who had gone on a business venture with his law partner in Australia. And he had bought a certain plot in the center of Melbourne. It was actually 2 plots, and after 2 years, after a couple of years, there was a Japanese company that approached them and came and shared how they really want this property. They wanted to build a big, beautiful shopping center, and they would pay a very big sum of money, and they would like to purchase it. And they go back and forth, and they decide to make the purchase, and the transaction goes through. And when Mr. Hirsch goes home, when he sits down with his wife, they sit down and they decide that with the money that they earned, they wanted to give it to tzedakah, and they wanted to give it specifically to Chabad. And after going back and forth and thinking where should they put this money, they decide that the most noble cause that they could give it to is to create a hospital in Crown Heights for children. And it will be a hospital for Jewish children. They'll make sure that there'll be kosher food. It will all be according to halacha. And they decide that this would be the best way to spend it. And they end up traveling to Crown Heights, and they meet with Rabbi Krinsky. They write down and they make this letter for the Rebbe, and they put in their donation. And they send it into the Rebbe, and they go back to Melbourne. A little while later, on Tesvav Tammuz, they receive a 3-page letter from the Rebbe. And in the letter, of course, the Rebbe first starts off by thanking them and shares that one mitzvah brings to another mitzvah. But very interestingly enough, the Rebbe actually continues in the letter and starts talking about health and how there's 2 approaches to health. There is a therapeutic approach to health, and then there is also a preventative approach to health. And the therapeutic approach is what we're all very familiar with when something happens, a challenge, or unfortunately, if someone gets ill and they end up going to the doctor, they end up trying different methods, and hopefully with Hashem's help, they have a refuah. But it's a journey, and it's hard, and it's difficult, and the person can be in a lot of pain. And then there is the preventative approach, where the person does not even get sick in the first place because their body is so strong, or they maybe have a vaccine that will protect them, and then Baruch Hashem, they're strong, they're healthy to begin with, and there is no need for going to the hospital or going to a doctor. And the Rebbe continues, and I want to actually quote, this is from the letter of the Rebbe. The Rebbe shares, the Torah is the most effective preventative medicine. And the Rebbe continues in the letter, and the Rebbe shares, why would you put your money into a hospital when you can take that same money and put it into chinuch institutions? And with that money, you will ensure healthy children physically, mentally, and spiritually. So there will not even be a need to establish a hospital that's according to halacha, because if they are raised according to halacha, it will not even be needed, and they will actually physically and spiritually and emotionally be protected. And that's the letter that the Rebbe sends back to them. And of course, they decide that they are going to end up giving the money towards education, giving it towards chinuch, and the Rebbe actually distributes it. And I really found that this letter was so mind-blowing and so beautiful. And how lucky are we that we get to be a part of this chinuch. And this shows the power of chinuch, the power of that moment when we come into the classroom, or if you're the principal and you're running the school, and this is what the Rebbe shared. And actually, we're in the month of Tammuz, and it happened to be, it was just my birthday on Shavasar B'Tammuz. And every time my birthday comes around in the month of Tammuz and the 3 weeks, it's not like I'm like jumping for joy, like it's the 3 weeks. And I recently was reading in the new book, Our Days, about the Frierdiker Rebbe and about the Geula of Yud Beis Tammuz. And I was really, really blown away. And it actually dawned on me, I'm like, 1 second, this Geula, what was the Frierdiker Rebbe fighting for? And in communist Russia, they didn't care. They said, you want to keep kosher, you want to learn with the elderly, you can keep your farbrengens. Just don't touch the children. The children and the teenagers, them you should leave alone. And yet the Frierdiker Rebbe fights and has this amazing geula. And when you read the story, you really see how much the Frierdiker Rebbe put his heart and soul and Mesiras Nefesh and everything for our Yiddish children, for the future. And when the Frierdiker Rebbe shares about the Geula, he said this is a Geula for every single neshama, every single Yid. Every single Yid. This is the biggest Geula for now and for eternity. And how lucky are we that we get to be a part of this, and we get to be a partner with our Rebbeim in this. In the same book, Our Days, the Frierdiker Rebbe shares how when he was in prison, he finally understood how the Alter Rebbe, when he shares that when he was put into prison and he had the Baal Shem Tov and the Maggid come and visit him, and they never left him for a second. And the Frierdiker Rebbe said how for me, when I went to prison for chinuch, I understood that the Rebbe Rashab never ever left me, not even for a moment. And the same is for us when we go in every single day, day in and day out, throughout the summer, in every single moment of our life, but especially when we are involved in chinuch with our Rebbe. And I want to share that I know that Chana Rose shared that the theme of tonight and the entire Kinnos is about being grateful to be in Chinuch. And I knew I would get nervous. Sorry, everyone. Baruch Hashem. I have my notes in front of me. It's Baruch Hashem. What I really wanted to share is that it is the greatest zchus and the most beautiful gift to be in Chinuch. And on those days when it's really tough, when you're driving to school and you might even have a tear rolling down your cheek because you're so exhausted from your baby crying from the night before, but you push yourself and you still decide to go to school. Or maybe you're sitting with your principal in the office and this is not the first meeting or the second meeting or the third meeting you're having about this child, and you just really don't know what to do anymore because you've tried every single method, and you really just don't know where to take it. Or maybe you're in the administration and payroll is coming and you don't know how you're going to pay the teachers and you don't know how you're going to make it through the year. But in every single one of these moments, at every single moment, just like the Frierdiker Rebbe had the Rebbe Rashab with him in the dark times and in the light times, so too with us. In every single moment, the Rebbe is with us, and we are doing the most incredible shlichus. We are the soldiers that are the feet on the ground doing the Rebbe's work. And if you open the Igros Kodesh, you'll see that there are so many letters and countless letters. How many of us has sat down in those hard times and hopefully in those joyful times, because we should always share with the Rebbe good news, and you open up the Igros Kodesh and the Rebbe shares and is talking to a mechanech or a mechanechas and shares their incredible work that they're doing and the incredible shluchos that they are doing and that the Rebbe is with them and the incredible brachais that they are gifted with. And we really are just so, so lucky to be in Chinuch. Yesterday I was sitting with my sister and I was sharing, I have built the most beautiful relationships with my fellow teachers, with my fellow mechanchim, and I wouldn't have this if I wasn't in Chinuch. And I'll just end with one last thing. When Chana Rose did ask me to share about being grateful in Chinuch, I really thought about it. After 5,785 years, out of all of the neshamas that decided to come down into this world to do the shlichus of Chinuch and creating a geula world and uplifting the next generation, is all of the ladies in this room. And that is... And that is absolutely something incredible and so beautiful. And I have no doubt that we are bringing the Rebbe and the Rebbe's in tremendous nachas ruach, and we are really ushering in the geula and creating geula in our classroom in every single moment. So please, if you could turn your attention to the screen, and may we ultimately celebrate the true and the complete geula with Mashiach Tzidkenu.
My name is Chana Prad, and I am a teacher. I've been teaching now for 34 consecutive years. My first two children were born in Tzfat, Israel. The first child went through major surgery at birth. They said it would chas v'shalom a 95% chance that he wouldn't make it because he was just a day old. But he made it 100%, Baruch Hashem. And my second child also went through surgery. And then I was expecting my third child. I was quite nervous. And I wrote to the Rebbe that I'm in Monticello. And by the way, I'm teaching voluntarily. Every day I teach and tell them the children the parsha, whatever Yom Tov it is. And the Rebbe underlined the part where I wrote that, by the way, I'm here in Himmel's bungalow, so I'm teaching the children. He made a strong underlying black line, and he pulled to the index and he wrote two words, Gadol Haschus. And I had a healthy baby. She weighed 613. I'm so ever grateful for this bracha.
We waited 4 years to have a child, and I used to, every time there was like a new update in our situation or a new shiloh, we would always, right away we would go to the aisle, and I never davened only for a child. Automatically, like, davening for my students was part of it. So when I came out of the aisle and I watched the Rebbe video, the Rebbe was talking about Chinuch al Tarsa Kodesh.
Geht aber der Ewigste Eder erklärt dies für ein Madre von der Chanuk. Geht der Frie der Käfes mit der vollen Möglichkeit, aber er soll kommen durchführen die Schritte auf den besten Leben und in das Fuß der Most. Welche das spezielle Haar, was jeder Madre von der Madricha und Chanuk von der Mechaneches, bekommt von der Lebischen Verdämm, was die Arbeit in dem Siro und Sino, in der Gehörigkeit und die Gehörigkeit auf Madrid an der Lebischen Erziehung, der Lebischen Kinder, als soll sein gebencht mit der Roche und Rüber und der Lebischen in allen Niveaus der Nötigen sagt, also bei der Zukunft, Lichtigkeit und Heiligkeit und Seele, Essen, Seele, Jungen, hat Protein, als so kommen Tonnen, die Müller Haschliche, Liebste, und er noch bemächtigt von den Tagen verdorschen des Kindes, der noch, was Gott war Haschliche, sie soll nicht sein, in guten Gesund Kaschen, in guten Gesund Trufni, und dann blieb war Moll und haben Naches, und die, welche sehr ziehen, und sie seine Madrid, Naches, und das ist jüdische Nacht.
It was my second year teaching in Shluchim Online School, actually, and it was the day before Pesach Sheni. I was teaching them the Sikha of Lamani Gara. So before I started, the way I introduced it, I said, if you can ask Hashem for one thing, and Hashem's going to give you that thing for sure, what would you ask Hashem for? And one of my students said, for Moritz Zeitlin to have a baby. Just a few hours earlier, I had gotten a positive pregnancy test.
Beautiful.
Mechanches, please turn your attention to the stage and welcome the founder and executive director of the Menachem Education Foundation, Rabbi Zalman Schneer.
Thank you. Haidu Lashem ki tov ki la'olam chastai. How grateful I am for the schus to be part of something so spectacular. This kinos is made possible because of the dedication of the Menachem Foundation staff. As the kinos grows every year, it feels like our capacity grows as well. And each one of the team, as mentioned before, gives it all they have and so much more. And I feel that we grow from that as well. So thank you. I want to thank all the donors that support our work, the Tamchei D'Oraisa. I want to mention the chairman of the Menachem Foundation, Mr. Allen, and his wife, Lori Zeckelman, partners and pillars of Torah worldwide. I want to thank my dear friends, Avram Yaakov ben El-Kahana, Shlomo Yehuda ben El-Kahana, the Bram family, for continuing to support the Kinnos, for continuing to gift the Mechanchos every single year. May Hashem bench them in all. Tzvi and Simi Gelman, year after year, step up to the plate to enhance Chinuch, and also ensure that their community school can come to the Kinnos as well. Now, there is somewhere out there a Mr. Anonymous, and he knows who he is. So I'm mentioning Mr. Anonymous, and you know who you are. Thank you. Ellie Posner, a real legend, single-handedly raised teacher salaries in LEC by 10%, and continues to support Chinuch and this Kinnos as well. May Hashem bench him. I know he has plans bigger and greater. And Michael Ochayel Eli. Karen HaChomesh supports women's education and also took part in this Kinnos, and I want to thank them. A few months ago, we hosted a leadership retreat for Menalei Moises Chinuch in South Florida together with LEC. And Shukayach for LEC, yes? And Rabbi Shia Hecht of the Southern Connecticut Hebrew Academy, let's go for New Haven, shared the correspondence with his father, Rabbi Moshe Hecht, and the Rebbe. Rabbi Moshe Hecht was the executive director of the school in New Haven, and he had all the challenges of any executive director. He had mounting deficits, teacher shortages, declining enrollments. And he would write to the Rebbe, and with true Hecht style, with passion and with screaming, and the Rebbe would calm him down and give him chizuk and give him brachas. But one time, it got too much. And Rabbi Hecht said, Ad kan, I can't continue. And the Rebbe said, there is somebody in your town who you should get to know. He has the answer to all your problems. And his name is Moshe Hecht. It's about time you get to know him. This year, on Gimel Tammuz, Rabbi Ber Lazar spoke in the Upper East Side of Manhattan to a group of young Jewish professionals. There, he shared a story that a few months after he came to Russia, he faced a quintessential dilemma. He wasn't sure what to do. He spoke to Mashpiyim, Rabbanim. He didn't have a clear direction. He wrote to the Rebbe a 6-page letter outlining his problem. And the Rebbe wrote back, I think it was 5 or 6 lines, and he only shared the last line. And this is what the Rebbe wrote. Kol zman she'ein berusia, Chabadi chazak, askin beteva ubemeretz, eich tikach Chabad achrayis eze shetia. As long as there isn't in Russia a Chabad chassid that is strong, that is a passionate activist by nature, how can Chabad take any type of responsibility? When he got this answer, he took the first flight back to New York, and he came into Maskiris, and he told the Maskiris, the Rebbe's secretary, that the Rebbe is looking for a passionate activist, strong chassid. It's not him. So let the Rebbe find someone else to lead Chabad in Russia. And the Maskiris told him, you misunderstood the Rebbe's letter. The Rebbe is saying that you should become the passionate Chabad chassid. You are the one that is here and fit for the job. There is a Melamed in Crown Heights who I know very well. He didn't grow up in a Chabad family. He graduated Tiferes Bachurim in Morristown, and he came to live in Crown Heights, and he became a Melamed. One Shabbos, he's by the Farbrengen of the Rebbe, filled with a sea of Chassidim, and he looks around, and he sees in the corner, he sees his student sitting on his father's lap at the Farbrengen. He looks at the Talmud, he looks at the father, and he thinks to himself, this father is such a chassid, such a leader in Chabad, in our community. How can I be the Melamed of this student, of his child? What can I give to him that he doesn't have? At that moment, he looks up and he sees the Rebbe looking straight at him, giving him the message, you are the Melamed of this child. Yes, you. I was at the oil on Monday, a day before the Chinuch. I saw a letter of the Rebbe. The Rebbe wrote to somebody, doesn't say his position in the school, but he wasn't part of the administration. And the issue was about declining enrollment. And the Rebbe says, because you are in this Maisid and you see this problem, it is your responsibility to find a solution. And if you only tried, you will be Matzliach. When we are in Chinuch, we have such a tremendous opportunity. When we see something that can't be done, the Rebbe chose us to be the person to be able to accomplish that solution. Last year, I stood at this podium, and for the first time, I mentioned projects that the Menachem Foundation would be undertaking. And if those who recall, it was part of a larger group of ideas that we would try to implement over the next year. This year, on Gimel Tammuz, I sat down with my list to make a cheshbon nefesh, how those projects came out. And I found something very fascinating, that the projects that we announced right here at the Chinuch surpassed any of our expectations. We created like a whole new division of parent engagement and doing webinars for parents, partnering with schools. Thousands of parents have signed up for those webinars. We've upped our grants for our heritage, bringing kids from public school to Chabad day schools around the world to $3,000. Hundreds of thousands of dollars went out while we were preparing for the Kinnos, one of the most expensive times at the Menachem Foundation, because the summers, it happens to be our most busiest time. And yet everything worked out beyond any of our expectations. And the other projects, they're okay, but didn't have the same success. At the next team meeting, right after Gimel Tammuz, we discussed this. What is it that we have at the Kinnos that we see such a bracha in what we undertook? And there was no logical answer. The only answer that we had was the koyach and the schos of this Kinnos. We, as a team at the Menachem Foundation, before the Kinnos, we thought of individual achlatas, what each and every single one of us will take to walking away from this Kinnos. And I would like to mention a few of them. We spoke about the need to support new teachers. Too often, a teacher is thrown in a classroom and told to swim or chas v'shalom sink. To no fault of anybody. We're just overwhelmed. Our resources are so overwhelmed, but not anymore. We will be offering teacher mentoring for new teachers for free, for anybody. One of the most requested offers for help from the Menachem Foundation is find me a principal. We need to invest in developing principals for Chabad Moistis and to support principals. As mentioned last night, we'll be supporting principals in new ways, and also we'll be training for new principals. And there's more, but this is enough for now, because this isn't about the Menachem Foundation, and it isn't about any one of us. Each one of us in Chinuch has a dream, sees a challenge, and only thinks if I had the time or I had the money, I would be able to fix this issue and solve this challenge. But let me tell you, you have the ability. If you take upon yourself and you make a achlata, and you write it down, and you verbalize it to the people around you, and then you think of one thing that you will do to solve that problem and to bring your achlata to fruition, you will be matzliach. This is the bracha that's in Chinuch. You are chosen for the position. You have the koyach to be matzliach. So I invite you all to take the moment and make a achlata. Write it down, share it with those around you, and together, with all our achlatis, we'll be able to go to the Rebbe with Mashiach Tzidkenu, B'karv Mamish. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Minufa Duray, and I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Growing up, my parents, they were Balat Shuvas. I'm third out of 9 children, thank God. It was a very lively, busy household. We lived in a small apartment. My parents didn't have a lot of emotional support or physical, any support from family since they were mostly on their own. My father worked very long hours to support us, and my mother stayed home with us. So my mother was the main caretaker of the home. She was a strong woman. She took care of us, and she fed us and clothed us, and she did everything she can. When I was in 3rd grade, she was expecting her 8th child, thank God. During that pregnancy, she broke her leg. She was bedridden. All of a sudden, there was no one really to take care of us. We didn't have family or friends or community. A lot of things started to get neglected, things that she would never neglect, like basic food and clothing, different things like that. It was just not on her mind. And my father had to keep working. So she was kind of on her own. I just remember it being a very dark time.
Hi, my name is Elisheva Golani. I live in Houston, Texas. I started dancing when I was 5 years old. At age 9, I decided on my own that I was gonna stop performing in front of mixed audiences. I would keep dancing, keep going to class, and I would learn all the recital dances that my classmates were learning, but I would stay on the side and then I would watch them perform and not be able to perform with them. And I felt like I could never show anyone my hard work. It was just very difficult for me, especially going into my teenage years.
My name's Yael. I live in Crown Heights. When I was in 6th grade, I was in math class and I was old enough already to know that math is not my subject. I always failed math. When I was in 6th grade, we had Miss Hirsch for math, and I remember looking up to her. And the first test that we had, I failed. I remember her giving out the test and she gave a paper back to me, but it was not my test. It was a paper that said, meet me by recess.
Somehow, my teacher, who was Miss Krinsky then, found out about all this going on. I'd come to school and I would tell my teacher, my stomach hurts, and my teacher would say, did you eat breakfast today? She'd give me this bowl of cereal with milk and say, eat, you have to eat now. And I remember thinking like, wow, she thought eating cereal and milk was more important than davening. And Pesach was coming and she made this deal with me. She said, if you learn the Manishtana in Yiddish, I'm gonna take you out on a special trip. And I did it, I worked really hard. When I finished it, she said, okay, I'm gonna speak to your parents and we're gonna take you out. She brought me some special snack, a special treat, and she took me to Target and she bought me a shirt and a dress that I picked out. And I remember feeling so happy and proud of it. And I remember wearing it to shul on Yom Tov and feeling like a princess. Like, I have this dress that no one got. But this teacher wanted me to feel special, have something nice for Yom Tov. There was no ounce of shame or guilt or any of that. She made us feel so good and we earned it. So like, we were so proud of ourselves. She gave me extra love and care without it being noticeable or like everyone knew like, oh, you're the favorite. I felt very safe in the class, not like this one girl who has this issue. So school was kind of a safety place for me. And my teacher was kind of like a nurturing mother in a way.
I went to meet her and she tells me what happened. So I told her, I'm not good at math. I don't get it. I don't know how to do it. And I remember that her face wasn't threatening. She was being gentle. She was smiling. And she tells me, no such a thing. And I think you could do really well and I'm going to help you do it. So sure enough, I studied. I did ask her where I was stuck for help. And I retook the test and I remember getting over a 90. And her face lit up when she gave me that test back. And you see, I told you you could do it. And just seeing how she believed in me, I wanted to prove myself and impress her. The rest of that year, every math test, I got over 90.
When I was in 4th grade, I had an amazing teacher, Mrs. Fishman. She has an organization after-school program. It's called GEO at Torah Day School. And we have dance, drama, choir. At the end of the year, they put on a show for all the moms. Here I am in middle school and I'm devoting a lot of my time outside of school for dance. I'm not able to show anyone. And Mrs. Fishman approached me and offered me a solo on point at the GEO performance. And this was like a huge deal for me. Being able to express myself in this art form for women and girls. So it was a really big turning point for me, and I'm really grateful for that. 5 years ago, a mother approached me from the community asking me if I could teach her daughters dance. So I started with 5 girls. From that, it exploded, and that's how Mahalev was born. And today we have over 170 students. Our recital is for women and girls only. We have a very big professional production at the end of the year. The costumes are tznius, the music is Jewish or instrumental. It really is just an opportunity for these girls to learn dance technique, to have this self-expression, and then to be able to perform on this magnificent stage. It's just a magical experience. Just like Rivka Fishman gave me the opportunity to perform in a kosher environment for women and girls only. Thank God, now I get to give all these 170 students the same opportunity, and I'm forever grateful to Rivka for that. And you never know, the impact you'll have on a student's life, just like Rivka had on mine.
It started coming back to me, this 3rd grade teacher, and how much she put herself out there for me as a little 3rd grader and how much it impacted me, that I decided let me try this out. Maybe I could, be there for another girl and somehow support someone who could use it.
She really gave me that belief that I can do it. If I set my mind to something and I work hard at it, I can do it. And I'm an adult now. I'm over 40 and I still carry that with me. And today I apply the same belief. I apply it in my business. I apply it with my family life. Whenever something comes up that's a struggle or a challenge, I make sure to believe in myself and get myself over that hurdle, just the way I did back then.
Hi, my name is Shalama Saxon. 41 years ago, I was a ninth grader in Beis Rivka, hanging on by a thread, emotionally and spiritually, and even physically. I wasn't seen or heard in my single-parent home. Yiddishkeit was practiced with a hypocritical double standard, and we subsisted on welfare checks and community tzedakah. On top of all that, I was considered a bum, placed in the Mechina class because I couldn't learn in Yiddish. To put it mildly, I was floundering. But one person did see my circumstances, my needs, and my potential. Together with another teacher, she arranged for me to go out of town for the following school year, which turned into 3 years until I graduated high school from Yeshiva Schools of Pittsburgh. But she didn't just arrange my transfer, she paid for it. Month after month, these two extraordinary women fundraised to pay my tuition and board. With my firm foundation, I was able to come back to New York for seminary, marry and raise a family, and eventually move back to Pittsburgh to teach in my dear alma mater for 13 years until we were zeichet to move to Eretz Yisrael. Who knows if my siblings would be frum today if not for you? Who knows whether my children and grandchildren would even exist? Mora Tachtel, you changed my life. I can never repay you. I only hope I'm successful in paying it forward. Be'ezras Hashem Yisbarach.
The bracha of Chinuch. When my parents, Rabbi Zalman and Shlomo Hazen, came to America, they had a yechidus with the Rebbe. The Rebbe asked them where Hayas, the Hebrew Immigrant Aid Society, was sending them. My parents answered, to Cleveland. The Rebbe then told my father to become a Rav, a Sheikhid, and a Chazan. My mother said to the Rebbe, I didn't endure all the Mesiras Nefesh in Russia, spending 6 years waiting in Paris for a visa to come to America, just to live so far from the Rebbe. I want to live near the Rebbe, so that my children will grow up to love Yiddishkeit and know what a Rebbe is. The Rebbe answered, by Hashgacha Pratis, you're being sent to Cleveland. There's a chinuch there, and it teaches children Yiras Shamayim. It's a good city, and there's important work to do. The next night, after putting the children to sleep, my mother returned to 770, hoping to get another yechidus. She stood quietly near the entrance, waiting to slip in when no one would be looking. Rabbi Charakov, the Rebbe's secretary, saw her and said, Lady, what are you doing here? She did not respond. She only wanted to speak to the Rebbe. She didn't feel any need to speak to the Rebbe's secretary. So she stepped away, waited a little while, and then tried once again to blend into the line. Rabbi Charakov approached her and again said, weren't you here yesterday? My mother replied, the Rebbe didn't understand me. Rabbi Charakov asked, do you believe in Hashem? Do you believe in the Torah? My mother said, of course. Can Hashem and the Torah change? She answered, no. Rabbi Charakov responded, the Rebbe doesn't change his mind either. And then he added, no one is forcing you to listen, but if you want the Rebbe's brachas, do what the Rebbe says. That was the moment my mother understood what it means to have a Rebbe. We moved to Cleveland, where my parents went on to accomplish incredible things. If you want to read more about my mother and her life in Russia, it's all in the best-selling book, The Queen of Cleveland. In Cleveland, my mother taught us a simple principle. If the Rebbe asks you to do something, it's your obligation and privilege to do it. The Rebbe spoke strongly about Mesilas Shabbos, and we started a weekly group. My mother taught us what it meant to be a leader. We would pick up public school children, teach them the brachos, tell them stories, play games with them, and that was the first taste of the bracha of teaching, seeing firsthand how many of those girls that left public school and chose a Jewish education instead. In 1927, Tafresh Peches, the Frierdiker Rebbe, turned to the noted chassid, Reb Itcha de Masmid, and he said, if you are involved in chinuch, bist du meiner, then you're mine. But if not, you can be an ehrlicher Yid, you can daven, you can learn. Aber mit mir seid ihr klal und klal nit sheiches. But you have no connection to me. In Igros Kodesh, Chelek Tes, the Rebbe addresses the mechanchos of Beis Rivka in Char Chabad, and his words are pretty sharp as he writes to them. Davar borer, asher hashgacha elyona hitzila eschem. It is absolutely clear that the divine providence saved you from the Holocaust. Loi bischusam ubischus atzmam, not because of your own merit. Ella tachlis musuyamis, but for a specific purpose. Bli safek etzli, I have no doubt that you are saved to teach the next generation. And then the Rebbe adds, und mit dem Eibishter dinkt man sich nicht. And don't mess with Hashem. Don't take this very lightly. And at the end, the Rebbe gives a bracha, schus harabim mesayitam, that when you teach, then the merit of helping others will help you also succeed. In 1948, 5706, in the Rishimis, the Rebbe recorded a talk he gave at a Beis Rivka dinner. He spoke about the purpose and urgent need for a school for girls, for Beis Rivka. The Rebbe says, this is not merely a Torah study initiative so that the students should gain more knowledge. Our objective is that the girls should be true Yiddische Kinder. And then the Rebbe continued, in most cases, girls grow up in an atmosphere and an environment where the only focus is making a living or having a good time. There is no appreciation for the special qualities of the Jewish nation. Yiddishkeit is seen as a burden. And the Rebbe continues, my father-in-law, the Frierdiker Rebbe, made it the mission of Beis Rivka to impress upon the hearts of the girls that they are B'nais Yisrael, to recognize the Kedusha and the purity that comes with it and the special responsibility they carry. In 1970, Tafshin Lamed Aleph on Vav Tishrei, the Rebbe spoke a sicha about Chana Hanaviyah, how she stayed home and didn't go to Shilai after giving birth to Shmuel. The Rebbe explained that although Chana would have gained tremendously from being in Shilai, she understood that raising her child and giving him a strong foundation, a strong chinuch, was even more important. After that sicha, many teachers were left wondering, did the Rebbe mean us? Should we be leaving the classroom to stay home and raise our children? They went to Mora Chana Gurewitz, unsure what to do. She helped them write a letter to the Rebbe asking for clarity. The Rebbe answered. He was not referring to teachers. In fact, the Rebbe said, Gadol schusam, the schus of teaching in the Rebbe's Ma'aseh will protect your family. In 1976-77, Tafshim Lamed Vav, the Rebbe declared Shnas HaChinuch, a year of education. He made it clear, Chinuch is not just about information. It's about shaping character. It's about building values in children and in adults. No other mivtza was given a full year. And if you look at the Rebbe's 10 mivtzayim, you'll notice something striking. The first 3 are all about chinuch. Avas Yisrael, chinuch, and Torah. And that's exactly what a teacher does every single day in her classroom. I remember sitting at a Farbrengen with Mor Yehudis Heller, and she said something that's always stayed with me. She said, when you go out on shlichus, you make a difference. When you teach Talmud Torah to public school children, you make a difference. But you should know that it just takes one generation and everything can be lost. Every year you teach our girls in our maistes, you are saving a world. And she would remind us, every class you teach, every student you reach is a continuation of Yiddishkeit. My husband had a unique way of seeing the world through the lens of Torah and Chassidus, always drawing lessons, life lessons, and uncovering depth and meaning. He would often say that the 4 sons in the Haggadah aren't just characters at your Seder table. They actually tell the story of Yiddishkeit in America. The Chacham was the grandfather who came from the old shtetl and held tightly to mitzvahs. His son became the Russia. He was forced to give everything up because in America, if you kept Shabbos, you didn't have a job. So he let go of everything. Then came the Tum, the grandchild, who saw a Pesach Seder. He saw a Friday night meal at his grandfather's table. So he asked, Mazais, what is this? But the fourth son, he never saw a Shabbos table. He never heard the Manishtana. He became the She'enoi Yadea Lish'ol. He didn't even know what to ask. And then often my husband would add or end his speech what he heard from a Jew in Arizona, in Alabama. And he said, he was in a nursing home, and he said to my husband, I would call it the Shabbos Kodesh. My son calls it Shabbat. My grandson calls it Saturday. My great-grandson calls it the weekend. I shudder to think what my future generations might call it. This is why shlichus and chinuch are so critical, because it is our mission to reach those children, to inspire them, to teach them, to give them a taste of Kedusha so that they can come home and call it Shabbos. About 10 years ago, my daughter-in-law, Nomi, was a mechaneches in high school in Florida. She stayed in touch with many of her students and remains close to them until today. More than one student has told me that they are from today and married Lubavitch because of the care and concern Nomi showed them during those formative years. Just last week, on a trip to New York, she had a brunch with one of her former students, who now considers Nomi her mashpia. That's the kind of impact a teacher can have. We're not just teaching classes, we're shaping futures. We're making a difference that's everlasting. Because when a child loves their teacher, they learn to love Hashem, they love Yiddishkeit, they love Torah and mitzvahs. When discussing the mitzvah of chinuch, Rashi teaches that it is rooted in the Shema, V'shinantam levanecha. You shall teach them to your children. Elu hatalmidim. Rashi explains it means your students. He brings 3 proofs, one from Torah, one from Nevi'im, and one from Kesuvim, that banim refer to students. And then Rashi adds something very beautiful. And he says, just as students are called children, as it says, banim atem laHashem Elokeichem, so too a teacher is called a parent. And he brings the proof from Malachim, where Elisha turns to Eliyahu, his teacher, as he's ascending up to heaven, and he cries out, Avi, Avi, Rechav Yisrael v'Gaimer. The Rebbe explained, my father, the chariot of Israel, etc. The Rebbe explains that when Rashi uses the word v'Gaimer, he's telling us to look at the rest of the verse. And what does the rest of the verse say? Ufarashav. Avi, Avi, Rechav Yisrael, Ufarashav. And its rider. What is the purpose of a chariot? A chariot helps someone move forward, leads you on your journey. The Rebbe said that is the role of a teacher. We are the chariot, giving our students the tools to navigate challenges. But sometimes we have a student who can't steer on their own. They need more support. That's when we step in as parashav, as the rider. We don't just teach, we guide, we carry, we help them through. That, the Rebbe says, is why it says v'goimer. Because how do we complete our shlichus as teachers? By being there not just in the easy moments, but to the ones who need us the most. When I first started teaching, I began in elementary school, so I asked myself, what do I remember from elementary? And you know what stood out the most? The songs. Songs that taught me dikduk, davening, songs that helped me understand and remember concepts. Decades later, I can still sing those songs. I teach now in high school, and I see the excitement when I teach Parshas Yisrael of my students who still remember all the Aseres Dibros because they were taught it as a song when they were in high school, in elementary. So sing the davening. It is not a waste of time. When children sing, they connect, they love the words, and they never forget them. Just recently, I was in Brazil for the wedding of my great niece, Esti Alpern, to Yossi Krasniansky, and watching the davening in the Beis Chabad, it took my breath away. An entire shul of Balei Tshuva, singing the full davening with heart, reciting the Shema, word for word, stopping at all the right places. That's the kind of chinuch my sister, Esther Alpern, Alahal Shalom, and her husband gave, not only to their children, but to their community and spiritual children as well. Banim Elu HaTalmidim, truly powerful, truly lasting. My husband and I were in Detroit for the bar mitzvah of Elliot, the son of our dear friends, Dr. Larry and Molly Resnick. His 8th grade Rebbe was Rabbi Kaufman, a well-known and beloved teacher in the Beis Yehuda school. At the simcha, one of the local anash approached my husband and said, there's a famous story with a Rabbi Kaufman from Detroit. And the Rebbe, could it be the same Rabbi Kaufman? So my husband went over and asked him, did you ever meet the Rebbe? And he said, yes, I had yechidus with the Rebbe. Rebbe Gastalter from Detroit had encouraged me to ask for a bracha to have children. At first, I wasn't sure. I'm not a chassid, but after so many years of waiting, I agreed. During the yechidus, one of the things the Rebbe asked me was, do you tell stories to your students? I told him, no, that's bittul Torah. It would take away time from learning. The Rebbe looked at me seriously and said, a large part of Torah is stories. Stories bring Yiras Shamayim to children. You should tell stories when you teach. From that moment on, Rabbi Kaufman became the most beloved Rebbe in the school because he told stories. At first, the Hanhala didn't understand, but over time, they saw the difference it made. Children connect through stories. They learn through stories. Tell stories. Masa Avos Siman Labanim. The stories of our fathers are a guide for their children. That is why the Frierdiker Rebbe began writing Sefer HaZichronos. He explained that before the Torah teaches us mitzvahs, first it tells us how our ancestors lived, what they faced, how they struggled, and how they stayed strong. Because when we see their journey, we find direction for our own. It's not about giving over information. It's about passing down emunah, strength, and identity. And sometimes one story can do all three. This past year, my 7-year-old granddaughter, Goldie from Chicago, called me up, full of excitement. She said, Bubby, I am going to win the spelling bee contest. And she did. She spelled words I could hardly pronounce, and she won first place in her class. And then she advanced to the finals, competing against children much older than her. Watching her so motivated, so focused, so proud made me think, there is so much excitement around competition in general studies. Let's bring the same energy into our Kodesh classrooms. Let's hold spelling bees with Hebrew and Yiddish words. Let's create school-wide challenges in Yedias Kololias, just like Tzivos Hashem does on Sefer HaMitzvahs. But it's not just about spelling. It's about giving our students a sense of pride, a love for learning, a feeling that this is something to be great at. That Tzemach Tzedek used to test his children in Perush HaMilais to make sure they understood what they were saying when they davened. Let's give our children that same clarity, that same connection. Let's learn the Rebbe's Sichos, Kontreisim, the letters he wrote to Mechanchim and Mechanchais. Let's absorb the Rebbe's thinking so we could pass it on. Because when we teach with godliness in mind, we plant that in our classroom. We don't just educate, we transform. Chanoich lanar al pi darkei, gam ki yaskin lo yasser mimenu. Educate the child according to their path. Even when they grow old, they won't stray from it. Years after we started those early Mesiba Shabbos groups in Cleveland, our school held a 50th reunion. My sister and I flew in to take part. On the plane, we noticed that more and more women, familiar faces, were also heading to the reunion. One by one, they came to us and said, "Do you remember those Mesiba Shabbos groups? That changed everything for us. We switched from public school to Hebrew Academy, and today we have large, beautiful, frum families, all because of Mesiba Shabbos." That's the power of one initiative. That's the lasting impact of Chinuch. May we take the lessons we've shared tonight and carry them forward with the strength of our mothers, the vision of our teachers, the care of a mashpia, and the courage to stand at the front of the classroom with purpose. May we teach with heart, with clarity, and with conviction. Singing, davening, telling stories, spelling words of Kedusha, and raising students who don't just learn, but live Yiddishkeit with joy. May we each be the rider that the Rebbe spoke of, helping each child, especially the ones who struggle, navigate life with emunah and strength. May the schus of Chinuch, this gateway to brachos, bring light to our homes, our schools, and our communities. And may we, together with our students, merit to greet Mashiach Tzidkenu now, b'chesed u'v'rachamim. Thank you.
That was incredible. And the energy in this room is beyond incredible. It is an incredibly humbling, breathtaking schus to stand here in front of this room of holy, beautiful women who devote their lives to the most incredible avodas hakodesh in the world, the shlichus of Chinuch. And this year also marks 50 years since the Rebbe launched Mivtza Chinuch, when the Rebbe gave us a powerful mission: involve the children in Mivtzayim, help our students become mechanchim and mechanchos themselves, who inspire others. So we have such a big schus and such a big achrayus. We mechanchos are the commanders in Hashem's army. We're charged with training the most powerful force on earth, our students. And our students, they're the ones who are going to lead Klal Yisrael to the Geula Shlema. And because of our students, we're going to have the schus to stand proudly on the front lines with the Rebbe in the lead, and we're going to be able to say, Re'u Gidulim Shegidalnu. So now it's time to celebrate everyone here, the phenomenal chanches, in the middle of your summer break, coming for chinuch, we are going to have the kinnis HaMechanches roll call 5785. So now, please give a rousing round of applause to the incredible Mechanches from the United States. We welcome the Mechanches from Arizona, the Mechanches from California, with heartfelt hakaras hatov to our welcoming host state of this kinnis, the place where inspiration meets action. We welcome the Mechanches from Connecticut, the Mechanches from Delaware, the Mechanches from sunny Florida, the Mechanches from Georgia, the Mechanches from Illinois, the Mechanches from Kansas, and the Mechanches from Kentucky, the Mechanches with the parade of chinuch from Louisiana, the Mechanches from Maryland, Mechanches from Michigan, the Mechanches from Minnesota, the Mechanches from North Carolina, the Mechanches from Nevada, Mechanches from New Jersey, and from 770, we're all marching out. A special shout out Mechanches of Kan, Tiva, Hashemes Abracha, Crown Heights, New York, and the whole New York State. And shout out to my fellow holy Mechanches at Benos Menachem, the Mechanches from Ohio, the Mechanches from Pennsylvania, Mechanches from South Carolina, the Mechanches with big hearts from big, beautiful Texas, the Mechanches from Wisconsin. And now we travel to Canada. Bienvenue to the Mechanches from Montreal, my beloved hometown. And a special shout out to the Mechanches at the school that gave me my foundation and my roots, Bishopka, Montreal. Welcome to the Mechanches from Toronto, and the Mechanches from the capital city of Ottawa. And from Canada, we travel to our holy land, where our hearts and our tefillahs are constantly with our beloved sisters and brothers. We welcome the Mechanches from Beit Shemesh, Eretz Yisrael. And now we travel to the royal UK, where we can learn from Malchus how to serve the Eibishter. Let's welcome the Mechanches from London and Manchester. And now we go all the way down to the breathtaking land of South Africa. A warm shout out to the Mechanches from Cape Town and Johannesburg. From a city rich in Chabad history, from where the Frierdiker Rebbe directed his network of chinuch with Mesiras Nefesh, we welcome the Mechanches from Riga, Latvia. And now all the way to the other side of the world, down under, we welcome the dedicated Mechanches from Melbourne and Sydney. And I was once so lucky to work with the incredible staff in Kessler Torah College there. Shout out. And now we'd like to give a warm shout out to all of our Zoom participants, tuning in from countries all over the world. We are so glad you're here. We feel you, we see you. This kinnis is global, and so is the impact of your chinuch. And we are now here celebrating an incredible milestone, 10 years of this extraordinary kinnis HaMechanches. 10 years of inspiration, of growth, of connection, of a movement that's changing the world from the inside out, one mechaneches at a time. Thank you, thank you, thank you to Menachem Education Foundation, who has been here through this journey. If you've been here 10 years ago, in 5776 and in 5777, do you remember the very first kinnusim in Crown Heights? Please stand up and stay standing if you were there. Let's see. And now, in 5778, the first big move was to the Long Island Hilton. Who joined that year? If you were there, stand up and stay standing. And now, in 5779, we were at the Armand Hotel in Stamford, Connecticut, the Kinnis's new home base. Were you there? Stand up and stay standing. And in 5780 was the Zoom Kinnis, the one that connected Mechanches from across the globe for the very first time. If you were part of that, stand up and stay standing. And then in 5781 and 5782, we were back to the Armand in Connecticut. And if you were there, stand up and stay standing. And then in 5783 and in 5784, the kiddos moved here to the beautiful Sanford, Connecticut Hilton. And if you were there those years, please stand up and stay standing. And now we are here at this 10th kiddos. Please rise and give a thunderous round of applause to every single woman in this photo. And let's keep growing. Let's make next year's Kiddos HaMechanches the most epic kiddos yet in Yerushalayim. Can you imagine the group photo, Mechanches group photo in front of the Beis HaMikdash? So huge round of applause to Chinuch and every Mechaneches who is bringing Mashiach now.
I am beaming from that energy. It's contagious. Let us end off this spectacular